I've built a lot of raised beds over the years. I've taught literally millions of people how to build them. And recently, I ripped all of mine out. Not because raised beds don't work or are bad, but because I made some long-term decisions that eventually caught up with me. If you're planning to build raised beds this spring, this video could save you money, time, and frustration because I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did, why it became a limitation, and how to do it right, no matter what material you'll be using. When we first moved in, I built 6-inch deep raised beds. Now, I knew deeper beds were better. This wasn't a knowledge issue, this was a budgeting decision. We had just moved in, there were fences to build, terraces to build, irrigation to run, a lot of things competing for money. So I told myself 6 inches is fine. We've got native soil underneath that's pretty decent. I'll just amend heavily. And to be fair, for most crops, it worked just fine. Our native soil here is actually pretty good, so roots could move beyond that 6 inches into the ground below. But there were real limitations that showed up over time. Because we have gophers here, I installed gopher wire on the bottom of the beds. That meant large roots like carrots and parsnips couldn't freely push downward beyond the wire. I had to grow short or round carrots. And when I tried to install stakes or trellises for tall or heavy plants, there simply wasn't enough soil depth for real stability. I haven't been able to grow pole beans the entire time we've lived here, only bush beans. So while the beds technically worked, they didn't give me many options. And that's the real lesson. Depth isn't just about whether something can grow, it's about stability. It's about moisture retention, which was a huge issue here in the summers. It's about having room for roots and support systems. If you're planning raised beds, here's what I recommend. Go at least 10 to 12 inches deep if possible, especially if you're installing gopher wire or have bad or contaminated native soil. When we built these beds, I chose standard pine boards. Why? They were affordable. And again, we had a lot going on financially at the time. I told myself it'll last long enough. And to be fair, pine can last several years depending on your climate. But here's what happens over time. Boards start to warp, corners loosen, soil pressure bows them outward, and moisture begins to accelerate that rotting process. You're constantly reinforcing and repairing. The real issue wasn't that pine doesn't work, it's that I treated it like a permanent infrastructure. When you build something once and have to rebuild it 3 times or more, it wasn't cheaper. If you want wood beds, here's how to do it right. Use thicker boards. Consider cedar or redwood if your budget allows. And reinforce corners properly with stakes or brackets. And you're going to have to accept that you may be rebuilding in 5 to 7 years depending on your climate. Now, I've grown thousands of pounds of food in wood beds, but don't treat temporary materials like permanent systems unless you're prepared for replacement cycles. When I first installed my beds, I laid them out based on what fit the space, not based on workflow 5 years later. Over time, I realized that wheelbarrow access was tighter than I wanted, irrigation lines weren't as clean as they could be, expansion became awkward, pathways required more maintenance than expected, and I really just didn't have enough room to sit comfortably between the beds to actually do some work. You don't want to be like stretching in weird positions if you've got work to do in your garden. When you're first building, you're excited to get growing, but layout decisions last longer than plants do. If you're building this year, pause and ask, can I comfortably move myself and equipment through here? Where will the irrigation run? Will I expand this later? Does this layout maximize sun exposure year round. Think system, not season. Before we move on, if you're in the planning stage right now, this is important. I am very excited to announce this. I've finally done what many of you have been asking for quite a long time. We put together a Raised Bed Masterclass. It's an online course that takes what we're talking about in this video and so much more, and I walk you through it step by step, from planning, what materials to use and how, to building and filling with the right kind of soil, planting, maintenance, irrigation, anything and everything for you to be a successful gardener right from the get-go is in this course. We've also got professionally shot video guides and a downloadable course companion. So if you want to build it once and build it right, that's exactly what this course is designed to help you do. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, and just for all you guys who are watching now, this weekend only, because it's the inaugural weekend of the course, we're giving you 25% off. I'll put the code down in the description as well. All right, let's keep going. Raised beds reduce weeds. They do not eliminate them. Over time, I dealt with the introduction of bindweed through contaminated compost. I've been working for the past 6 months to get rid of it all. I'm just about there. Pathways were turning into weed patches. I had never decided what I wanted to cover the paths with, so I just left it dirt, and that was a mistake. Looking at it now, and I just used a weed whacker, but you can see where the paths were and where the beds were. The weedy spots are the paths. When I'm installing these beds, I'm going to be laying down weed barrier in the paths, not under the beds themselves. I still want those open to native soil below. And I'm also going to mulch the paths over the weed barrier. This was the big one. When we first moved in, money was being pulled in every direction. And so I asked, how do I build the most beds for the least money? 6 inches tall, pine boards, simple layout. At the time, that felt responsible, but I didn't calculate lifetime cost. Over the years, I've replaced boards, reinforced corners, adjusted the layout slightly. I spent time rebuilding, and time is cost, and labor is cost, and replacement materials are definitely cost. When you factor in rebuilding cycles, wood can absolutely end up costing the same or more than something that lasts decades. So this time, for the first time, I'm transitioning to metal beds. Not because wood was bad or wood doesn't grow food. I've grown tons of food in wooden beds, but because now I'm thinking in terms of decades. Metal is higher cost up front, but when you're not rebuilding every several years, the lifetime math changes. If pine is what you can afford, build it. Grow food, don't wait. Just know going into it, it's temporary. That was my mistake. Now, I don't regret building those beds. They produced a lot of food, they taught me a lot, but now I'm rebuilding them deeper, stronger, and more permanent with what I've learned. This isn't about going back, it's about taking it to the next level. When it comes to raised beds, don't optimize for this season. Optimize for the system you want 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. I built what made sense at the time, but now I'm rebuilding what makes sense long term. And in a couple of weeks, I'll be sharing the complete installation of all the new beds back here. The brand I chose, the depth, the layout decisions, all of it. So if you're planning raised beds this year, make sure you're subscribed. To learn some great raised bed hacks, check out this video right here. It was my biggest video last year. I'll see you guys next time.